I told you originally I had 21. I got a last minute request on Monday.
Okay, well,
So-
you're chairing the meeting. I'm only just here, so you can say hi to people as they come in.
Yeah. And I'm not taking a roll call or attendance or anything like that.
No, it's recorded and we'll share it afterwards.
Picture of you.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Melissa, Ken, Josh, Neil, Brenda, Michelle, Christy, Dave, whoever else I've got here.
It's Barb. I'm with Dave.
Okay, hi Barb.
Hi.
I got your email. Barb?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Oh, I say I got your email. I'm gonna double check, but with Tim Wiseman, and I will get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Look at all the people joining.
We're not live though.
We're not doing Facebook Live or anything live, no, but the meeting is being recorded and will be available to anybody who requests it later.
It's just I can see other people moving and we're not, so, but that's okay.
Well, your camera's not on either, so.
That's okay.
That's a stationary picture of Dave, but holding a tea or coffee.
Best picture, leave it alone.
I didn't say anything about it. You had somebody at your end commenting that you weren't moving. Mike, you said there was about 21 people had registered.
22, yeah, 22 in total.
Okay, so we're around the halfway mark right now, so we'll give them another couple minutes.
Yeah.
Everybody's so lively tonight.
Are you expecting us all to be lively? Woohoo, it's a Wednesday night.
There we go. There's some liveliness now.
There you go.
Alrighty, whoever, well, they're not joined yet, but we'll wait till they get connected. The Samsung, I need to figure out who that person is. Who just logged in on the Samsung SMG 970 phone? Hello, Winnie. Alrighty, the Samsung does not want to talk to us.
Okay. Brenda, which Brenda is this?
It's Brenda Pankoff.
Thank you.
You made it back. Or are you still on vacation?
No, I'm back. We came back yesterday.
Ah,
Yep.
that didn't sound very enthusiastic about it. I guess you didn't want to
Oh,
come
not
back.
about being back, eh?
Oh, it's good. It's we were ready to come back. It was a long time away. We were away for 35 days. So
Wow.
yeah. First time being away that long. So it was good.
Whoever signed in, excuse me, on the Samsung SM970W, can you let me know who you are, please? Okay, Michael, we're at, I'll give that Samsung person another couple minutes, and if we don't get a response from them, I'll disconnect them because I don't know who it is.
Yeah.
So maybe they can't get out of mute or whatever to let me know. So we'll give them a couple minutes. Floor is yours, Mike.
Well, good evening, everybody. I want to thank you for attending this open and / senior open discussion forum. This meeting was suggested at our AGM last year, and to give the open and senior open bowlers, past and present, the opportunity to voice their concerns or ideas to help promote our events. Well, most of the decisions that all of you know, most of the decisions that are made with regards to the senior open and the regular open are decided by our delegates at the AGM. It was felt that your input would be beneficial to all involved to help them make a educated or a decision when it comes to making any changes. Just before we get started, I want to introduce some of the people that are with us tonight on this meeting, and I'm sure you'll know most of them. Of course, our president, John, Gary Kehoe, who is our treasurer, Christy Lampman, who is on our tournament committee. Sue is our vice president. Now, John, you said Winnie was on. You saw Winnie?
Yep, she's here.
I don't see Winnie anywhere, but anyway.
She's there.
Because I only have one page and I don't, but I don't, it's funny, I don't see her on my screen. Oh, there she is. Hi, Winnie. Okay. Yeah, I think I put down everybody's name that I saw on the screen. Not that we're taking roll call or anything like that. So anyway, when you sent in your registration forms, we asked you to list any discussion topics that you wanted to discuss tonight. So if 3 people put down one thing, then I only listed it as one. You were sent out the discussion topics. Like I say, if more than one person put it down, then I only listed it once. I have 7 topics, so to speak: zone boundaries, cost, coaching, senior open, location, lane draws, and AGM. So the first one that I have is zone boundaries. There were a couple of questions. One of them had to do with the number of zones. One of them had to do with regional zones. One of them wanted to know what we were going to do with regards to whether what we were going to amalgamate or anything like that. So just so that you know, Sue, who is on the besides the Constitution about doing the zone boundaries, we are in discussion on trying to find a way to make each zone stronger than what it is now. As you know, with bowling centers closing and leagues not joining, each zone is getting smaller and smaller. I know we lost some in Toronto. We just heard that Jeff's Bowl-O-Rama in Niagara is closing, so they're going down, and with obviously with fewer bowling centers, there's going to be fewer leagues and fewer bowlers. So our discussion at that meeting was, what do we do with the number of zones? Do we go down to 12? Do we go down to 10? Do we go to 8? Do we leave the zones at, say, 12 or 10, but make the open a regional, like we did with the Youth Challenge? We took the Youth Challenge and we made it into 8 regional areas. So whether we do that with the open, does anybody have any want to mention anything? Any comments that they wanted? I know Michelle, that was one of your questions, or
No,
and a couple of
it
other
real-
ones.
So because I was out of the game for so many years, I mean, we used to have 24, right? And then I come back and we're at this weird 13 number, which I don't know where it comes from. I bowl in my league in Newmarket and I hear, hey, did you hear we're joining with Toronto? I go bowl in my league in Hamilton. I hear, hey, did you hear we're joining with Niagara? And I'm like, what the hell? What's happening? There's so many rumors out there. And it's like, I don't think anybody really knows what's going on. But I would like to see us reduce the number at a maximum, I think, to 12 if possible, but I don't know what that means in terms of how that would work. I don't have that answer. And I also, I mean, I've heard many things about the regions that work in YBC, and I mean, I've heard, I think, more complaints than anything, just because people don't understand those boundaries and how people got meshed with other ones. But I don't know. I'm open to discussions for sure here and ideas.
Okay, first of all, with regards to your number of 13, we did have 14 zones, but then all of a sudden one of the zones, and that's the Tri-County area, they ran into problems for various reasons. Volunteers is one of them, so which is a big one. Money is another one. So with the thanks to Middlesex Elgin and Brenda Pankoff, they took in the bowlers from Tri-County and made them part of Middlesex Elgin. So that's how we went from 14 to 13. With regards to the YBC, yeah, their numbers are struggling too. So I think they've gone to 6 regions. I know the Masters, I believe, are at 10. What do you want to call them, regions or zones? And that's where we're at 13. Being an odd number, everybody knows that the open what it's going to be like. With regards to teams and practice, or not practice, teams and warm-ups and buys and all of that kind of stuff. The zone realignment, although we have started it, whether it's done in time for next year, there's a lot of behind the stuff things that many people don't realize. Bowling centers, leagues, executives, money, all that kind of stuff has to be worked out. Ideally, to eliminate the issues that we have this year, one with the buys and everything, and 2 with asking with the singles to go 2 of them, 1 men's team and 1 ladies team, to split up. That way we could use 24 lanes instead of going to what we did a number of years ago in Ottawa, when we went 6 on 1 lane and 3 on the other and everything like that. So we were fortunate enough to get the Niagara ladies and the Hamilton men to agree to separate themselves. So that was we were fortunate in that way. So ultimately,
You're welcome.
to eliminate that problem, like I say, you don't want to. It may be just a Band-Aid solution at the time, but if for next year, if we decide somehow to go down to 12, that would eliminate that problem. We would use we've got 12 lane centers, we've got 24 lane centers. We wouldn't have to worry about splitting up singles, and we wouldn't have to worry about buys and everything like that. Everybody would be able to bowl all at the same time.
So then my
Um,
question would be, if we're looking at moving down to 12 as a start, there's some zones that are struggling to have that mixed team, to have enough numbers. Would it make sense to be looking at those zones first to see where they could be joined with?
that's a decision that's going to have to be made, like again with the board of directors, with the zone realignment committee. Whereas I believe there's Sue, there's myself, Winnie, and there's four delegates, 4 people from, yeah, Brenda Pankoff is one of them, Carol Hooper from Western Ontario, Bob Akaj from Central, and Doug Plummer from the Bay of Quinte. So, like I said, Michelle, it's something that takes time. Hopefully, between now and our AGM in June, we will be able to have some sort of decision as to what way we want to go. But in the long run, again, the number of zones will have to be worked out. So, and as to rumors, like I say, rumors are rumors. Sure,
I know.
number of years ago, the suggestion was made of taking the Bay of Quinte and splitting it in half and sending half to Ottawa and half to Kawartha Lakes, and then so anyway, Brenda, you have a question?
Not a question. I just thought to clarify what happened with the kids because when we made that decision, it was a couple of years ago to because of the YBC numbers to break up or add some of the zones together. The way it was done last year, it was really a couple of the zones that got together and said, you know, well, last year it really didn't work this way, so let's reconfigure it that way. And it was the zones at the AGM that actually were part of that discussion. Which I thought was really good because it was the local bowlers or the local areas that were having the input. It just wasn't somebody from the O5 or the O5 saying this is the way it is. You know, we tried it the one year, it did, you know, the configuration didn't seem to work, so they suggested something else. So that's what happened with the kids. And again, as Mike has already alluded to, the fact that the YBC numbers are down, that's why we had to do it for them. And that is one of the suggestions even with this is, you know, do we stay with the zones we have and just make the open a regional? Those are a couple of the questions that we're asking on our committee as well.
Okay. Yep, you're absolutely right. So again, all of these notes can be brought up at the AGM. What we did, when I say we, the Ontario 5, we took a look at, and again, it was 2 years ago, I guess, like you said, Brenda, the Youth Challenge. We took zones and we looked at the numbers that were there for the past 3 or 4 years. And we made it down to 8 regionals. And then I think it was last year, Huronia, and again, their numbers were down as well. So they wanted the zones to be, or the regions, pardon me, to be reallocated, and that's where we stood last year. So we can look at that. We can make a decision, and again, obviously, nothing is going to be done until the AGM. Whatever decisions are made, if we said we wanted to go to 10 for the Open for next year and bring it to but everything has to be done at the AGM. So. Nothing can be done other places. Okay, Brenda, do you have another question, or did you not take your hand down? Okay, Laurie?
What were the numbers when the Youth Challenge went to regions? Did the numbers drop for participation?
Unfortunately, oh Laurie, I'm sorry, I don't have that information in front of me.
Okay.
When the tournament directors run the Youth Challenge, they submit their winners report form and all the stats into Rhonda. So Rhonda would have that number. But
Okay,
I don't.
yeah, it would be
wouldn't-
an interesting number to look at to see how many kids stopped bowling when we went to regionals. And my only thought on regionals is I'm not a big fan of regionals, but that's okay. But whatever we do for the open realignment, it should be a full zone realignment all the way across the board. Because when when I was at Skyview Lanes and the YBC changed that it was this zone for youth challenge, it was this alignment for YBC, and then one house went back and forth. It was very confusing for everybody and it created a lot of chaos. So if we're going to realign, I think we should realign across the board.
That's what we're going to do. The decision, I think one of the discussion and the topics was to take the boundaries as we know it today, erase them all and start all over again and realign all the whole province.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the ultimate goal, is to do that.
Yeah,
But
sorry, Mike, a part of the committee's work, that's preliminary work, is to look at the boundaries based on what the YBC have as well as what the masters have. I absolutely agree that there's definitely lots of confusion out there sometimes from different people, even with myself at different times. Walk into a bowling center and go, yeah, what event are we talking about right now, or which organization are we talking about for what boundaries they are and stuff. So but the thing is, each one of those organizations have their own unique reasons for doing what they're doing, as well as the Ontario 5. So we just have to see if there's some way to meld those to be a little more in line if possible.
Yeah. Vicky?
Hey, sorry. So you mentioned that Jeff's is closing down, and he is unfortunately being forced to close his business down, not from his choice. I'm just skipping back a little bit because we are losing a large bowling center in Niagara. However, he has full commitment to reopening another center, and that is also going to take some time. He wanted to have the new center built and ready to go for this coming September, but he's just hitting roadblock after roadblock after roadblock right now in purchasing land itself. So our hope here in Niagara is that Jeff's Bowlerama is just on a temporary closure from its original location, and in the near future he's going to be reopening another center. So we do have hope here in Niagara that we are going to have another center staying. We're just we're jumping through hoops right now and trying to support him the best that we can.
Yeah, absolutely, Vicky. When I was there for the high-low doubles this past weekend, Jeff came and chatted with me for a little bit and filled me in on a bunch of stuff. Some of it he said keep confidential. But yeah, he definitely is planning on building, so that's good.
Yeah, he has spoken to a few of us who've coached out of his center, and we're active with him. And I mean, he's been phenomenal with just allowing us to go to his center and practice and have all those things accessible to us. And he hosts a lot of fundraisers from there. So he's frustrated. So we're doing our best in our area to, keep his spirits up and to support whatever he needs from us as well.
Absolutely. Like I said, I understood that. I know after we left on Sunday, after we left Saturday night, he had a I believe an open fundraiser. Plus he also said, or not, he didn't say, but the next day at the executive tournament, they mentioned that the place was just packed Saturday night.
Yeah, we had a 369 that unfortunately my family wasn't able to attend, but there's also Tom Cullen, who's the local bowler here and has been in our open from Niagara many years. He hosts a fundraiser from originally Kingsway Lanes, and then when Kingsway was sold and is now condominiums, it moved to Jeff's, which Jeff gave him a lot more lanes to be able to utilize. So Jeff really is big on the fundraising, and he usually did the knockdown fundraiser tournament that was not held this year because he was just trying to jam in as many things as he could for the open bowlers and for, the people of the community that wanted to use his facilities. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. We need more people like Jeff to, not that the proprietors that we have are not good, but some are better than and more prone to helping out the open bowlers, which I guess brings me down to the next point that I have on my list is the cost. I know a couple of you asked, how do we get the cost down? Well, I guess I'm not really familiar with that process. I know there are so much there's so much involved with the finance committee of the cost. You've got your lane assessments, pardon me, your entry form, your entry fees, the costs for provincials, the costs for nationals. As many of you may or may not know, Ontario is the only province that pays for their contingent, their Ontario contingent, to go to nationals. All other provinces, the individual bowlers or teams pay it themselves. So I believe that price, that's one of the prices that that's put into to everything. So I know, John, you were saying that the finance committee is working on some ideas to help offset that cost. Declining participation. Unfortunately, we can't do too much about that. People don't bowl for various reasons, whether it has to do obviously financially, health-wise, they're no longer bowling, things like that. So okay, Michelle.
So I have lots to say in this area, but I mean, one of the first things I want to say is in regards to paying for the competitors that go to nationals from Ontario. I'm afraid if you were to take that away, we would actually see less people bowling, because some of those people that do bowl couldn't afford to pay their way to nationals, to be quite honest. So then you're going to see more fundraisers at the next level that are being done even more so than now. Because if you go on Facebook right now, every zone's doing something to try to raise funds for the next step. Anyway, that's beside the point. But I've got a couple questions here, and I mean, I've talked to a few years about this, but there's a few things here. So one, is there a reason we have to bowl a 20-game roll-off? Can it go down to a different number? We're seeing lots of tournaments now, 8-game blocks instead of 10. Is there a reason we can't go down to 8 and 8? That automatically deletes like $25 for each participant because of the lineage cost.
Any change can be made. For example, now I'm showing my age here. Back in the day, when York Simcoe was one zone with Huronia, it was Huronia and York Simcoe, so that big zone. The roll-off back then was 30 games.
Yep.
It went to the AGM, back then it was called the convention, and the number was, then they came down with 20. So there's nothing to say that a motion or a recommendation from the zones to go to the AGM to drop it down to X, whatever number you want. If you said 18, 16, whatever happens to be, that can be done. Any change can be suggested and presented and brought forward to the AGM. But like I say, Michelle, it's the delegates who go to the AGM. It's the association delegates that go to the AGM are to make that decision. But I'm sure if you would put in a motion or a recommendation with your reasonings and whatnot as to why, then again, it can be discussed.
Okay. And then my question, I know we've lost sponsors over the years, but is there anyone that any of us can chase? Like is there anything left out there where there's a big sponsor that would be willing to take on something like this?
Well, we can't use liquor sponsors like we used to in the past. We can't use, obviously, cigarette sponsors. If you can think of somebody, something, or whatnot, and maybe give us a contact name that we might be able to approach. Brenda Hamilton looks after our communications and fundraising and everything like that. And we have had in the past various zones, associations, and individual members contribute to the O5, but that really affects the bottom line of the association, and it helps out all bowlers, not just the open bowlers.
Okay, and then my next question is there anything through the government? Is there any subsidy type things available that we're not tapping into?
We get government funding, but that's not specifically for the open. I'm sorry, that I wouldn't know the answer to. I don't know whether Gary or John, you would be able to help out with that question.
From my understanding is we do not qualify for a lot of possible funding because we are not an international sport. And that's what it comes down to.
Wow, it's fun. You know what's funny? I mean, we're a Canadian sport. You'd think the Canadian government would be willing to back something that is a Canadian born and bred sport. Anyway.
Yeah, being involved at the executive level of the Ontario Five for many years now, I've gone through many years of dealing with both provincial and federal grant submissions and stuff on a yearly basis, and it's scary that as a uniquely Canadian sport that there's so little available to uniquely Canadian. That's why we're under the Heritage in Sport moniker of the governments. Even now, we just finished the Winter Games, and we were being told at the Winter Games again that they're concerned about why pipe and bowling is even a sport. So
Yeah.
So, Dave, you had your hand up for a while there. So what do you got? Or Barb, whichever.
Yeah, it's actually Barb. I have two questions, and I'm just curious on one. Why is it that we can't use a liquor sponsor anymore for the Open?
We are provincial. We get government funding from the province of Ontario, and they do not allow liquor or tobacco sponsors to be part of it, or gaming or other recreational drugs sponsors.
Okay, that's news. That's news. But anyway, thank you for that. And my second question is the seniors entry that we pay. Obviously, we don't get a nationals. So does any of that money go to the national event for the top side of the Open, or is that just clearly designated to the seniors?
No, the assessment fee that everybody pays of $30. The $30 is offsets cost of the event, be it either the senior event or the Open, but it stays with that event specifically. It doesn't get crossed over to at all.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate the confirmation.
Neil, I thought you would put your hand up.
Yeah, I'm actually going to ask Michelle herself her thoughts. Don't worry about it. Carry on, Mike. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
So along the same lines, what about lineage? Like, is there any, and I know it's mandated, it's 6 something a line, but some centers are getting the full games, 2016 or whatever. And is it up to the local municipalities to be working with the proprietors on the lineage rates?
The lineage, the recommended or suggested lineage rates each year are put forward, I guess, or put out by Bowl Ontario. So, and they send them so every bowling center knows that this is the maximum that I can charge. I guess it depends on how well of a rapport you have with the local proprietor / manager, whoever it happens to be. I know I've heard that in some zones, even though when they say the suggested rate is $6.75, I know some of them will say, okay, well, I'm only going to charge you, whether it be $5.50 or $5.75 or $6, whatever, just to help you out, just to give yourself a break. But that's more or less out to the individual proprietors. So If the individual proprietors say, no, this is what we were told that we could charge, this is what we were going to charge. So unfortunately, there's not too much. It's their business, it's their livelihood. So that we can't, all you can do is ask. We can't do anything more than that. And if they say no, well, then they say no.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Great. With regards to the other one, with regards to promotion, I don't know how we can promote this tournament any more than what we already do. Everybody knows about the tournament. Everybody knows that the Open and when it is and where it is. So we can't do too much about that. So
Can I go down a path that Barb had started going down? And I think this is jumping to another item, but I'm gonna go to it, and I might not be popular here, but just about the seniors, and it doesn't go to a national. So why can't it be a separate competition? Like right now, okay, let me try to explain this the best I can without getting everybody hating on me here. But right now we have bowlers bowling, they bowl both. That a lot of those bowlers are making the actual open teams themselves. And you're not necessarily getting the best or the competitive teams you want at the senior level. So if it was a completely separate event, you might get more bowlers bowling both of them. If it could be done, since there's no nationals, it could be done more as a open senior, like provincial open seniors, something, I don't know, but just something completely different. And you might get more on both sides bowling if it's a separate tournament completely.
yeah.
Yeah,
And held on different weekends as well.
Yes. And you could even look at a format, what we do for the Open. You wouldn't necessarily have to have a men and lady combined. If you're getting the numbers now and more people competing, you might be able to do something different, like a ladies and men's team or something, or even maybe more than one mixed team out of zones or something. I don't know, but I think your numbers would be there because there's enough of us that are getting 50 plus.
Speak for
This
yourself. I'm still 30.
Yeah, I started going backwards at 50, so I'm, whatever. But a separate weekend, a separate roll off so that you're not, do you know what I'm trying to explain it and not doing a very good job, but
what you're saying, Michelle, is something that hasn't been said for numerous times at our AGM, whether it be through a bowl session or whether it be through motions and recommendations that have come out. And you're not the only one that has put it. The number of other questions came up from a couple of people. According to the feedback that we get from the people, the delegates that go to the AGM, they want to bowl together because they want the open experience, so to speak.
yeah, but we're not getting it bowling in separate houses anyway.
This is the first year that we've had that situation happen. Yes.
No, it isn't, because we didn't bowl in the same houses back when we did it at 3 Toronto houses. I can't even remember. It was a long time ago.
There was no senior division back then.
Oh, I don't remember, but like I said, it's a long time ago.
Yeah,
We
so
don't
just so everybody's on the same wavelength here, we just make sure that this is a forum, open forum to get discussion going on different ideas. We're not just debating about what's right and what's wrong at this time, because I would like to see a way that we can make sure that we got the snowball at the top of the hill and we got everybody pushing on it a little bit to get it going. And it takes a lot of effort to get the snowball going to start with. But once it gets going down that hill, those ideas start going festering and getting faster and faster and more ideas. So just make sure that we're not debating stuff right now. We're just bringing up ideas. So I'm going to flip
that though. Honestly, John, I think if there's no national level, it should be a whole different venue, different weekend, different everything.
Yeah, understand 100%. Lori.
Yeah, so along those same lines, and I know you're not asking for a debate and I'm not going to debate, but it's been at the AGM many times and voted down. However, this year with it being a separate a separate house completely. The feedback we're getting within our zone between seniors and regular members is if it's, now that it is a separate event this year. The only thing that's the same is the timing and the banquet if the seniors go, because it's a long distance. So if you move it to a different weekend, and we're probably going to put forward that motion if it doesn't show up somewhere else, that we move it to a different weekend. A lot of our 50 plus bowlers are going to bowl both sides. You open up all your coaching window, but I think all of the open bowlers and senior open bowlers have to speak to their own zone reps and make sure that their voices are spoken at the AGM, because no matter how many times it's tried to be put through, it gets voted down at that level because there's not enough support. So we have to try and muster the support. And I think this year is a good experiment to see how successful it could be as it's halfway own event. And I think it will transition that way, is my thought.
Yep, no, great points. Barb.
Sorry, yep, just something to consider. Currently, we pay, I don't know, 150 for seniors and 200 plus for the other side. If for those of us who want to play both sides, now we're looking at, you know, $300, $400 to play both sides. Not sure that's going to go over too well.
But what if we offered prize money for the provincials? Because like I said, it's not going to a national. So what if there's prize money?
Certainly something to consider.
That prize money then, Laura, Michelle, would have to be built into the cost of the tournament.
Yeah, but it's a totally different event. That's what I'm saying. We're parsing it off and we're creating a new senior open, basically an Ontario senior open, let's say. But it's a different tournament. You're playing for something different because you're not going to nationals. So right now they pay this money to go to the provincials for what?
Prestige of being there.
We have a banquet too.
Mhm.
We are allowed to go to the banquet, so we do get that.
Well, and I was going to bring up the banquet too, actually, but I'll let everybody else speak first.
The one thing I was going to add is if we are able to get it to go to two different tournaments, then as in my zone, I would rather keep the qualifying the same way it is now. You can do, so that way you don't have the extra double lineage cost. Right now you can play both sides in that one qualifying round. You can play both sides. And right now you go to whichever spot you fit whichever team you are highest on based on open first, senior open second. But if you had that same qualifying to keep your costs down to the bowler, you might be able to get from that one batch of 16, 28 games, whatever number of games it is, you may be able to make an open team and a senior open team. Woohoo, you made both. But then you only have the one set of lineage, so it doesn't really increase the cost because there's not that second roll off at the zone round.
Like that idea.
Sorry, did you say me?
Yeah, Vicky.
Well, I was just gonna talk. Barb mentioned some price points, I guess, out in their zone area. So for our qualification in Niagara, it was $200 for the regular open, and Kevin said he agreed to try out for the seniors as well, and I think it was like $225, $250 to do both for him. So there's quite I'm finding there's quite a range of price differences. And I don't want to go too much into my zone because some decisions were made about price points without consulting the actual people who bowl it, which grates on my nerves just a little bit, because I don't like people making decisions on behalf of me that aren't necessarily putting it out of their own pocket. So I'm just saying that there's a huge leap of money between zones, and considering that, now the seniors are now going to be at a separate location this year, is it not a good idea to just see how this is going to go and maybe make a decision going forward whether or not, did we want to separate it or whatever makes it more advantageous to get the numbers up and to make everybody feel very kind of included and wanted at all levels. I don't bowl seniors just because I'm not prepared to do that yet. Kevin wanted to do it because, you know, he's got some injuries. Not that my bionic brace on my leg doesn't state I have an injury. I'm just not there. So maybe take feedback from this open and see what other people have to say. Maybe opinions have changed after this one goes through and go from there. Just my 2 cents worth.
Lori?
Just related to the cost, because I find within my zone, not everybody understands how the pricing model works. So the way the pricing, all tournaments are, the total cost from the year before is divided based on participants, and that becomes a zone assessment. So the zone assessment, I'm just going to throw out, say the zone assessment's $100. That's not the exact amount. You can talk to your treasurers. So it's $100. Then on top of that, you add the lineage, and then it's up to each zone to decide what their rate is going to be. So some have fundraising money that they put into it to lower the price. Some take the hit saying, you know what, I'm going to have more people, so I'm going to be able to pay more, whatever. But it's up to each zone to set their own rates based on the fundraising components they have. But the assessment to O5 for the tournament is the same per bowler. $100, it's $100. Seniors, $80, let's say. But it's always a flat number, and then everything else is negotiable within the zone. Just to clarify for those that weren't aware of that.
Thank you. I'm just, in regards to our zone, I just meant a decision was made in regard, I'm trying to keep this as topical as possible. But a decision was made about the price point of our open without really consulting the entire zone that bowls. And then a mad scramble, like rabid animals trying to make up cost expenditures that, you know, it was all done in goodwill and to, you know, try to get the numbers out. Yeah. And I'll be very honest with you, I'm just done with the shit. Put it to the people who are bowling and let us as a collaborative team, I use that term loosely, to make an educated decision on behalf of our zone. Because not only are we losing centers, but we're losing people from people making decisions on behalf of those bowlers without consulting said bowlers. And if, like in our family, we have a core family of 4, and most of everybody knows us. And then Kyle is engaged to Lindsay, and Josh also is dating a girl who bowls. So we have a family of 6 who are, for the most part, 5 of us are actively engaged in competition on some level throughout our bowling season. And I've done numerous fundraisers to try to help out everybody. In fact, one year I did a fundraiser and I sponsored 2 people to come out to our zone, within our zone, to bowl. I completely covered their costs to compete and got flack from, and I turned to the person, I went, it's not your money, it's not your choice, zip it and walk away from me right now. So I have a huge passion to support the open. I didn't bowl masters this year for reasons, but at the same time, I bowled the open, and it's something that I thoroughly enjoy every season, whether I win or not. There's something about the open that keeps pulling us back every year. And it's the friendships, it's a whole bunch of things. But anyway, back to the cost. It just throws me. I found out, like, people were posting about costs when qualifying was going on, and I was just like, holy moly, what the heck is going on right now? So I guess maybe I was just trying to see whether or not, because everybody is separated with where our location is this year, whether or not we could revisit that and see whether or not having a whole separate tournament for the seniors is something that we want to look at. And again, John and Mike, I'm sorry, I was unaware because I was not at the age to bowl seniors yet. I didn't really keep my ear to the ground about that. So this is kind of new for me. So thank you for your patience.
I just wanted, and I'll stop talking, I promise. But one thing that we did do within our zone to help the bowlers plan for it, we've offered a payment plan. because some of the younger bowlers can't come up with 265 or 250 or $200 in October coming up to Christmas. So we've offered a payment plan, and they can pay in installments either quarterly or monthly, and the treasurer tracks those payments. And then when it comes time in that holiday season time, they don't have to come up with any money because they've already prepaid. So we do a payment plan for those that are interested, and we've offered it to all our open bowlers just to help them get there.
That's an awesome idea. I also want to give a shout out to all you zones that actually fundraise throughout your season instead of last minute. I'm a huge supporter of York Simcoe. I will go out there because they're great to me and my family. And I mean, if anybody else is throwing on something, usually the Robbins clan hauls ass and drives out there and participates and has a lot of fun. So a huge shout out to all you zones that are actually doing something year round to help out the bowlers. It's very frustrating from my end to have last minute kind of fundraisers put together, and it doesn't always accommodate everybody. I'm glad they try something, but I've seen a lot of you guys out there doing things year round. So huge kudos to you guys.
Yeah, just if you don't mind, just let me interject on about the financing a little bit. Lori hinted on or made comments about the way the event is funded or looked after, and that's absolutely true information. The assessment fee to the association is the exact same to every single association bowler across Ontario this year. For the open, the regular open, HST included, I think ended up being 165 and 48 cents.
162.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was 162.48.
Yeah, the budget I'm looking at is, it could be just slightly off, but which is fine. And then for the senior open, it was just right at $50 total. So as you can see, that the assessment fee, that's what the zone is being assessed at. So if you take any zone, whatever one you want to pick, their entries this year were 50 in the open and 20 in the senior open. Next year, they're going to be assessed at 50 times 165, or within pennies. And then for the senior open at 20 times that amount. So if they get more entries out next year, their cost goes down and they can pass that along. The big part, and it's been mentioned before, and no disrespect to the proprietors, I'm a business person myself. We all need to make money to stay in business. You know, so they're doing what they can to make money. The Proprietors Association, as Mike said, sets the recommended rate for the year. But then it's up to the proprietor that you're dealing with if they want to make that number lower, higher, or whatever they want to make it at. So what we need to figure out is a way to make sure everybody is paying the same assessment. And then where the benefit is locally is what they're paying for their lineage rate. So if it's 18 games, 16 games, whatever that number is, reducing the number of games, I think, Michelle, I think that's one of the ideas that may be maybe one of those ones that we need to push forward a little bit more. That saves it, like at $6.50 a game. That's saving everybody $25 at right up front on the spot. So as we move forward, we've got to make sure is that none of this information is hidden from anybody. Anybody wants it, I'm open to be more than happy to give it to you. You should be contacting your local association executive. They've got the budgets. They know the numbers for the year. And please go and talk to them. If you're not getting an answer from your local association, you got Gary Kehoe on the call right now, who is the O5 treasurer. You got me on the call. You know, Sue as vice president is here. We all have those budget numbers. We may not have them if you ask us at the bowling center or wherever we happen to be at the time. We may not have that exact number for you that exact second, but I'll guarantee you we will get you the answer to your question.
John, please send it my way.
I will not send you the budget. I will.
Just the numbers, please.
I can fill in any
Yeah.
blanks that you're looking for. You have to send me questions of what numbers you're looking for.
I'll send you a message later.
Perfect. Mike, back to you.
Okay, well, I think we've pretty well answered everybody's questions with regards to costs and fundraising and promotion and everything like that. The next topic I have, and maybe Ken, I believe that's you that you're on here, can maybe expand on what exactly you're looking, the coaching selection and coaching lottery. I put that down because you said you wanted it to be discussed. So can you maybe share your thoughts as to what you're looking at? Okay. Oh, I don't know what he's looking for. Coaching the lottery, I believe, is something relatively new, which came in a couple of years ago when a team cannot pick a coach, and the coaches that are on the list don't get chosen, then they have the opportunity to get on a master list, which is the lottery list. And because not all zones have an overabundance of coaches, so let's say you've got a zone with 6 coaches and 4 of them make the open. Well, all of a sudden now you've only got 2, so you're going to need 1 or 2 more. So, and the coaching selection, I really don't know what he's looking for on with regards to that. So the next object, or pardon me, the next topic that I have, and again, I think we've pretty well been going back and forth over it, and that's the Senior Open. And of course, separate from the regular Open or keep it together. Obviously, I think the consensus from the majority of the people on the line are to try to make it a separate event on a separate weekend. And that's trying to find a separate weekend. So now here's another question. And again, this is from
Hang on, Mike.
it was from
Barb, raise your hand. I
so-
got a question, or Dave, one of the two.
Barb. Barb?
Sorry, I was gonna let you finish. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was gonna go on. I was going on to with the one about the regular, like I said, whether you separate it or whether you keep it together. Again, this is discussion has gone back and forth over the past 3, 4, 5 years at the AGM. I know discussion was made between, I think, Brenda and Michelle and everything like that, and Lori this year, because it's separate, just to see what happens, to see what people think. And that was that. My next point, but anyway, before I go on to my next point, Barb, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, just because I've been playing this Open for, I don't know, 40 plus years now. Even as a bowling on the senior side, I still like to get together with all the Open people at the banquet, the opening ceremonies. It's always nice to see everybody, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of catch up. And that's the way I look at the Open, is once a year we all get together and have that opportunity to kind of catch up. So I just make that comment. I guess that's kind of not necessarily in support of separating them, but this upcoming Open will definitely be, I'm interpreting it to be the way I'm kind of looking at it. The seniors might be separate, bowling in a separate center, but we're all going to come together for a banquet at the end, which is what I'm looking forward to.
And that's been, I think, over the years, the main reason and the main argument for keeping it together. You get to renew old friendships that you haven't seen in a year. You get to get the Open feeling, for lack of a better word, again, and you get to see people. So the next one, again, it came from George. George, I think, suggested this, and his suggestion was, and again, it was brought up, it's been brought up a couple of times at the AGM, is to reduce the number from 6 back down to 5. Keep it at 5, and that way everybody bowls and there's no pull. George, do you want to comment on this?
As you said, Mike, it's brought up more than a couple of times, and and I've heard both sides of it, both from coaching and also from bowling. But I don't go to the Open or the Senior Open, to sit on the bench. I'll go there to bowl, and likewise, in some of the lane draws that we've had, and some of the days, the seniors have been pressed to bowl 7 games, which I think might, for some of us older types, is just about our limit or exceeds our limit. So there are pros and cons on both sides. So I just wanted to introduce it as a topic on this forum, and look for some feedback. And again, present to the committees and to the individual zones that if it's going to be talked about, have it discussed and then have it decided. Because the rationale exists and is acceptable in both ways. That is, teams of 5 only, or teams of 6, including a pull. So that's that's my sense of it.
Thanks, George. And I think again, the reason when this the Senior Open was first introduced by Brenda Hamilton over 10 years ago, if not more, I can remember, it was a 5-player team, and then as the number of games got, like you said, on one day, George remember some of the zones, the seniors in some of the zones are not, I don't know how to say this, are not maybe as fit to bowl all of them once, and that's why a few years ago it was suggested to go to 6 again, just like the Open, and that they can do a poll if they want to. So that's what that's the reason why that was put in. This year, if you'll notice, the we broke it up a little bit. You're bowling 3 games on the Wednesday and 5 on Thursday and 5 on Friday. So again, just fortunately, Joe at Mike's Lanes was able to free up the Wednesday night spot for us, thanks to the league that wasn't bowling that Easter week. So we did that. Other than that, George, if we hadn't had that, it would have been just like before, 6 and 7. So
yeah, that's and I think that's going to be more prevalent as we are, again, limited in the number of facilities that are available on that kind of time frame. And everybody knows that 12 lanes, is becoming a greater preponderance than there are 24 lane centers. So
yes, yeah. And Barb, just bear with me one more minute. George, I'll answer your other question that you had. A National Senior Open. It's a situation where the minimum, because I brought that up a few years ago when I was at a national event, and what happened, what my answer that I got was that many of the other provinces, if you were to put a Senior Open team in, you would lose a mixed team, because many of the players that play on the teams are of the senior age, but they just don't. They wouldn't be able to make a team if they did the Senior Open, and the minimum number of provinces you would need in order to make this possible would be 6, and you wouldn't get 6 provinces to run a senior
yeah. Well, as long as it's still a topic out there, because I think those provinces that are saying they'll lose the mixed team, well, no, they won't, because that'll open up spots for the younger bowlers to gain a chance, and as they get the chance to compete, they also will improve. So I don't agree with that scenario that they'll lose a mixed team. They might have a mixed team for 1 year that is weaker than what they would usually send, but the cream will rise to the top.
And of course, and again, what it is, it's got to be with participation. Some provinces don't have the participation. So
yeah, out of the 11 provinces and territories that participate in the Open, I think only 6 of them field a full contingent. men's, ladies, and a mixed team. All the other ones have a subset of some sort in there.
Yep.
So it's, you know, like take Nova Scotia for an example. They're no disrespect to anybody that's bowling from anywhere that makes a team. But one of the ladies that was bowling on the mixed team at one year there was she's used to bowling 3 games a week, and when she found out she had to bowl 7, she almost didn't make it to the through the event. So it's and that was only on one day. And Mike made the comment about 6 teams that or 6 provinces participating. That's not an O5 requirement. That's a C5 requirement. To be able to hold to be at the national level, there has to be at least 6 zones participating. You take the interprovincial championships tournament, that took about 7 years before it actually got completely off the ground to be where it is today. But that's only because most provinces wouldn't participate in it. So they allowed it to run 1 year with 4 only in it as a demonstration year, and that's when they were able to get enough people into it. So that's why Mike was making the comment about at least 6. George, on a yearly basis, I'll guarantee you that when Brenda Hamilton is at any national championships, and she's going as IP manager this year, she'll be pushing them on the idea of getting a senior championship running.
Okay, that's great. No, thanks for the update.
Next hand up, I think, is Lori, and then Barb/Dave again.
No, Barb was before me.
Oh, was she? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I unmuted, anyway, it doesn't matter. My only comment is, and it is just a comment, George, this is our first year in many that we have actually had 6 people on a seniors team. So for those of us that are on the seniors team this year, we're pretty excited to be able to have 6 players. But that doesn't take away, you know, from the 5. I get it with the 5, and this year will be good because we're maximum 5 games a day, which would be good. But anyway, it was just a comment that I thought I'd make, just that, you know, we're excited to have 6 on a team so that when somebody is struggling, we get an opportunity to take them out and give them a break and put them back in later. But yeah, Dave's back here saying Dave wants a rest.
I had 2 things similar to the 5-player. I found the team that I was coaching a 5-player team, and I've coached a 6-player team, and I've been on a 5-player team. I guess I was a 5-player team. It's a very different dynamic, and I think it's better with the 6 players because I'm myself, I'm prone to injury. Like, I'm of that age group, and I hurt myself. And, you know, taking my hand, like being able to sit down might not be a bad thing sometimes because I am that old. So that's all that it was to that. And then related to the National Senior Open, it would be interesting. So if we went to a separate event, then got other provinces to look at doing it as a separate event, and then piggybacked with the interprovincial national event and had the seniors in the interprovincial as a cost savings because you're more people together, then you could go to nationals twice in the same year, and you may be able to grow the sport that way. As we're trying to grow the sport, it may introduce that extra little bit caveat of competition. So if we looked at it that way and tried to sold it that way as a separate event, we might get a little bit of traction.
Okay.
Good idea.
Yeah. Okay.
Vicky next, and then Gary.
Okay, I'm just going to address the 5 versus 6 player team. So I've gone from being the youngest person on an open team to now I'm on the women's team this year, and I'm the oldest. When I was a bit younger, I would have been happy with a 5-person team. It meant that I could bowl the entire time. I didn't have to sit. There was a whole bunch of, you know, dynamics that were involved there. And I don't feel like I'm any less hungry for this game at 52 than I was when I walked in my, say, late 20s, early 30s. However, I like the 6-person team because if somebody is struggling and they need to have a sit down, we have that opportunity to use it. I understand some zones may not be able to have 6 people on their team, but from my vantage point, I look at it a different way now. Not because I'm any less hungry on the lane, but because I feel like if somebody's struggling or needs a break, you have that opportunity to use it. So I would personally prefer a 6-person team.
Okay. Any other sorry, Gary.
No, I was just gonna say, going to a 5-person team instead of a 6-person team, it goes back to Michelle's cost cutting, and you're saving on the provincial lineage. Anywhere from, if you're doing the open itself, you're looking at about $1,000 in the bottom line.
No, there's no lineage savings
No,
if there's 5
no
bowlers bowling
savings.
every game. Or are you thinking
That's
dropping to
pretty good.
4 with a pull?
Okay. Never mind, I'll go back to sleep.
Okay. Any other comments on that? I guess. I think we've pretty well got the feeds from everybody. And again, like I say, I want to reiterate, and I may have said it before, and I may say it before the end of the night. Any decisions or any thoughts or ideas that you want to put forward to your zones, you get in contact with them and let them know that this is what you want to do. This is what you think could be, should be suggested, talked about at our AGM. Okay, the next one that I have is with regards, again, with location. And who, okay, okay, Stefan was, oh, sorry, just before we get on, I've got a Diane T, I see. Who is this Diane T, please?
Diane Trask, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm going with Diane Trask. That's my vote.
Okay, I'm just curious as to how she got on, because I don't have her as being one of my registration people.
I guess that's the great mystery, Mike. I don't know.
Really? That's fine. Anyway, the next one that I have, and again, it was brought on by Stefan in Ottawa, was the where is the open location going to be in the future, and the same venue as opposed to multiple venues. Well, we do not have a crystal ball, unfortunately. So as to where the are going to be, it depends on how many lanes we've got. As you know, if we were to keep everybody together, the senior open and the regular open, that's at the present time with the 13 zones, that's a 48 lane center. We only have 2 48 lane centers in Ontario, that being Marival and Nebs, and neither center, probably for financial reasons, along with other reasons, do not want to host the Open, especially on the Easter weekend, because that is a loss in revenue to them for the Open. I believe, and Johnny, maybe you can back me up on this, with when we were talking to Tom at Nebs, and this is going back 5 or 6, if not longer, years ago. He said, if I was to host the Open on the Easter weekend, I would lose $100,000 in revenue.
Mike, I don't think Tom ever said a specific number.
Okay, well,
He may have said something to you, but when he was talking to me, he said that the hosting the Open, if he was to host the Open when we were negotiating with him, he would lose a significant amount of money, and that amount was never relayed to me what the exact amount was. So,
all right.
So I don't want you, I don't think you should be putting words out that you're not quite sure about. I do apologize when I say this, but Tom did tell me the number, and I can guarantee it's not that number.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. Maybe I just pulled that number out of my hat.
Yeah, but when we're talking here, we got to be sure we're talking with facts only, right?
Yeah. Okay. Again, the other one, the same venues as opposed to others. Well, we were fortunate enough to be able to get the centers that we got, and due to the fact that one of the other centers that we were thinking about using, unfortunately, it closed too. So we can only go with what we've got. So I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I said before, as a business person and all the excuse me, all our proprietors out there are business people looking after their 9 to 5 and their bank accounts and making sure that they're looked after. The world has changed drastically in where the revenues come from for bowling centers. It's no longer the league bowlers and the tournament bowlers, even though they still help out and contribute towards it. That is not their bread and butter anymore. Their bread and butter is the open lineage, or the people coming in paying X dollars to rent a lane for X amount of time. And you look at Maryville, when we were there last year for the Open and the singles. As soon as the singles were done, he had lineups of people waiting to get on the lanes. And I know Tom's the same way at Nebs. There's just almost on Easter weekend now. It used to be a dead time for the bowling centers, meaning that the lanes were basically sitting empty in a lot of places, and it was great for us. We were able to use that and get a reduced rate on costs and stuff because they had somebody in the bowling center. When the world changed and allowed people to have liquor licenses in the bowling centers, that added a new dimension to the game for a lot of places. But our events, during the event, you can't drink unless you're on a buy, so that doesn't help them out that way. But they do get all the spectators there. So I'm not trying to get off on a tangent, but the world is changing drastically, and that bowling as an organized sport is still very viable and important. We got 3 organizations that are all working and doing their own thing at the same time: the YBC, the Masters, and the O5. As well as there's some other invitational tournaments out there now that are gaining more and more momentum as they build those as well. So the world is changing. We have to figure out how to make sure we change and go with them. So yes, Michelle. Murray.
I'm just wondering, has there ever been talk of it being a different weekend than Easter weekend? Like, has that ever been a consideration, a discussion in any way?
Yes, it has. It's been brought up again at the AGM on, I believe it was just a couple of years ago. A couple of zones made the suggestion of moving it, but again, their argument was it's been the Easter weekend for 50 years. So everybody looks forward. They know that the Easter weekend is the Open. So to your question, the calendar of events is a pretty packed full calendar.
Sure.
Between our association, the Masters Association, and the YBC Association, there are not enough weekends in the year to run all the tournaments that we do run. And I know, and I think I just got a note from Michelle, posting it or putting it on another weekend or another time frame means an extra day off at work. Right now, I'm pretty sure everybody gets Good Friday off. If you move it to another weekend, then that means instead of having to take 2 days off or 1 day off, depending on where you live and the location to the tournament, you would have to take 2 days off. And I know there's been arguments that, okay, well, if we reduced it to the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then you wouldn't have to take any days off. So, but, and then this is just me speaking personally, because it's on the Easter weekend and you've got the Wednesday, now it's Wednesday all day, but Wednesday afternoon, Thursday and Friday and Saturday, if they wanted to move it to Sunday. Sunday to a number of people is a very religious holiday, and I don't think there'd be anybody that would be wanting to bowl on a Sunday, whether it be a half a day or 2/3 of a day, and leaving the bowling center at 5 o'clock or whatever to go home. So again,
No, I don't disagree with you. Pardon my interruption. I guess I struggle a little bit with the language in that, it's always been Easter weekend, or it's always been this, it's always been that. As John just said, the world is very different. I guess I would just, and it's maybe not specific to people on this call, I would just challenge people to be more open to adjusting and adapting to the fact that the world is different. You know, the zones are different. There's not as many centers available. There's still possible solutions, I would like to think. And I understand, yes, vacation time, it's more limited for some people than others. And you have the O5 calendar, perhaps, you know, a tournament that's not on Easter weekend could be held on the Saturday of Easter weekend that doesn't require the same amount of lanes or what have you, because the total number of people that we have is just more in this tournament than I think any other tournament on the calendar. So maybe there's opportunity to move things around there. I mean, for me personally, even like Easter weekend, yeah, Sunday, I have young kids, and like if I had to travel too far, I probably wouldn't compete for the sake of not being home on the Sunday. So everyone has their reasons for you know, wanting it to be or not wanting it to be. I would just challenge people to be more open to the fact that we have to adapt in some way, as everything is changing already and we're already limited. So it's just a thought. Like I said, I was just curious if it was ever a discussion to have on a different weekend.
It has been discussed at the AGM in the past. And Laurie, I believe, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, just real quick. And I think the last time it was brought to the floor, the reason that it's always been on wasn't really raised. It was mostly related to the extra time off, and people have with the open being the cost it is, taking that extra day, whether you're paid, because some of the people aren't paid for their vacation days, it just added to the cost. So it did get voted down again, but it's probably an option to look at again. The other thing I was going to suggest is maybe that O5 could reach out to every zone themselves and ask if they, within their zone and a partner zone, they could put together some recommendations of like 3 centers that are in close proximity, whether it overlaps a boundary or not, just so that O5 doesn't have to do all the legwork. Each zone could come up with their, hey, we'd like to put our hat, because we could have the preliminary conversations with our bowling alleys. And like, so I'm central, so we could talk to Streetsville and Hopedale and Brampton Bowl and Center Bowl and see if we could negotiate something that you guys would follow up on, but we could get the ball rolling. So as an individual zone, we may have a closer relationship with our partners. We may be able to get the rate at $4 because we have that relationship. So it's just an option just to try and move things along if you reached out to each zone and see if they're interested.
Okay. Thank you.
Mike, just on Michelle's point there about a different weekend, what people, I don't think everybody can totally comprehend the thought that right now we have Friday as a free day because most people are off on the Friday. But if we were to move the event to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, with the final championships happening on the Sunday and the banquet of some sort or social night of some sort on the Saturday night, it would be no more extra time off for anybody. Right now, anybody who is going to be bowling in the open in the singles is going to probably taking all of Wednesday off and all day Thursday off. Most people are probably heading out, depending how far away you're traveling from, will be heading out on the Tuesday to go to Brampton, so they're ready, or Brantford, I should say. Don't go to Brampton, you miss the open. To Brantford on the Tuesday, so they may go out after work. So they're taking a Wednesday, Thursday off, got the Friday. But if we were to change the event to be another weekend, I think out of all the 11 provinces, I think we're at 5 or 6 are on Easter weekend. Everybody else does it prior to Easter. It has to be completed by Easter weekend. So moving it somewhere else is possible, and that's outside the box thinking again. It's just that like I said before, we need to be ready to move and change if things as the world changes. So if it means that 30 people won't participate in the open because it's Easter weekend, now do we have those 30 people plus everybody else still participating if it's 3 weeks earlier? I don't know, don't have that answer, but I'm just throwing it out as an idea. So, but there is ways to work around it as long as we're all ready and willing to adjust our schedules, knowing that we would start Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and be bowling on Sunday before it would finish. So
I have one more thought. You mentioned the alcohol piece. So, because a lot of proprietors, that is part of their bread and butter, is having alcohol. Maybe it's time we revisit, can you drink while you're in that tournament? Because it's not a youth tournament, so alcohol shouldn't be an impact. So because that would be more advantageous to the proprietors. Just throwing it out there. I don't know why we don't drink at the tournaments, because I don't know, but
The Ontario 5 government mandates that provincial championships, alcohol is not consumed by the participants during the event when they're participating. So that's why we're allowed, we can get around it by when they're on a bye, because they're not participating then. It's in the terms and conditions of being eligible for funding.
okay.
Vicky?
I know I don't work for the school board anymore, but I know when I did work for the school board, getting time away from my situation was very tricky. So I know a lot of people who bowled the Open are board employees. Some are teachers. I was support staff, so I was never allowed to submit for days off without pay. They would automatically deny me. If I used a sick day and they decided to source out where I might have been, I could have been fired. I mean, I quit, but it didn't make a difference now. I can come and go as I please. But my concern with moving possibly dates to starting earlier, if nobody's given that personal time, some people might have to relook at, you know, if I qualify for a team, am I going to be able to hide my time away without getting caught? I know one year I had to completely shut down my Facebook. One of my teammates was just basically threatening to post everything online and put my job at risk. So I'm not sure about anybody else board and stuff like that. Just personally, my board for the Hamilton board, I could not have hid that. So my concern would be, are we going to lose numbers from anybody in the education sector who is blatantly told, schedule your marriages July and August, anything like that. So my concern would be numbers affected if we moved it ahead in the week. So that's a thought process to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, no, good point, Vicky. There's always more than one side to, or opinions and comments on that decide things. And I think we've heard numerous times saying there's some people that have an opinion of X and they think it's a great opinion, and then we go to vote on it, it's the majority say no to it. So it's because there's all kinds of different ideas out there. So as the tides turn, as what life moves on, we all have to be prepared to make those moves. But there could be extenuating circumstances that stop us from doing that. And Vicky brings up a valid point there when she was working. So.
Okay, I think that covers that part. Unless there's any more questions, I'll move on to the next one. And this has got to do with lane draw. And this, Michelle, I believe you were the one that brought this item up.
Yeah,
Michelle,
it was, sorry,
Oh.
which one? Yeah.
the other Michelle.
Michelle Swan, sorry.
I didn't bring this one up.
Yeah, I think I had put it on, Mike, but it was before the decision had come. I think I registered and submitted that question before the second survey went out. I can't remember at what point, but my question was essentially already answered. I was curious how it came to be. I mean, again, it's more just an opinion than anything else, so I don't think it's necessary for discussion at this point. I mean, I'm grateful that we had a team, Vicky, thank you for deciding to split up, but I struggle with, I think it's unfortunate that it was left to that. I mean, even John, I went back and forth on my answer in that survey. I think ultimately just mixing up the women amongst themselves and the men amongst themselves would make the most sense. I mean, obviously, if you put the decision in front of the bowlers, like I said, I didn't want to have 6 on one lane, but if I had to, then I would volunteer to split up. So I think that's where I don't know. I didn't love the approach for it. I didn't bowl last year, so I don't know how it came to be. I understand just from the numbers perspective, but I just mean I had heard things about what happened last year and why it was put to a vote this year. But yeah, I think it was a tough spot for the bowlers to be in. I don't think it was an easy spot for anyone to be in, but
Yeah, that's
Essentially, my
what-
question is already answered. so.
with us at 13 zones, there is some complications that come up, you know. But as we go through into the team event, we're gonna have the same situation. There's gonna be a bye. The team coming off a bye needs X amount of time to warm up to be fair to that team to be back in the groove of bowling. So it's gonna be each game is gonna be a slight delay and stuff. So we're working on some ideas to help with that. So, Lori.
When I checked, when that survey came out onto, I think I saw it on Ontario Open Qualifying or somewhere the conversation started. My question is, it's not really a question. In the Green Book, it doesn't say what the structure is going to be for the provincial round.
No.
So I think O5 is within their rights before the tournament starts. I think what happened in Ottawa was mid-tournament, the structure changed, which threw everybody off and caused the kerfuffle. But if the lane draw was like the structure was announced before the tournament and it was consistent throughout the tournament, O5 should be able to do without whatever they want to do in that within, you know, well, 10 games, however you want to do it, however you guys want to do it. And then that's how it is. I don't think it really should have gone out to everybody. I think we should, we elect the board to make decisions on our behalf. We vote on it at the AGM and we put you guys in power to make those types of decisions without our input throughout the year. I think it creates a bit of kerfuffle when we're asking for everybody's input when they're not allowed to vote at the AGM. And I'm not meaning anything against those that aren't on the committees. You say they can't come to the AGM to vote, but then you're asking them to make a vote mid-year. So I just think it's a little bit of conflicting direction. And you guys had the right to do whatever you wanted in the first place.
Yeah, no, thanks, Lori.
Me.
There was way too much discussion going on of a difference of opinions or opinions from people who had absolutely nothing to do with the 5-pin association. To those who were not bowling in the open, to those who were not bowling in the singles. That's why we had focused it on saying we'll take input from people, anybody, we'll take the result from anybody, but only those who were bowling in the singles were the results. Their opinion was going to be mattered for this year. So in the end, there was a lot of discussion that random was the best way to go, and there was lots of people that had voiced their concern and their opinion about that. And when we put it to a vote of the bowlers who were participating, the majority of the bowlers wanted to stay bowling with their zone. So, Vicky.
Sorry, I have to unmute now, lower my hand. I completely agree with what Michelle just put in the chat. I too was completely fine with mix and match, randomize us all up with no preferential treatment given to how the lane draw went. You're welcome, Michelle. I was probably one of my first people off of my zone team to indicate that I would split up. I made my decision based on a few reasons. I qualified for this tournament on my own. I can bowl singles on my own. I don't need to stay with my team. My teammates are my teammates, regardless if I'm spread over 24 lanes or if we're standing on the same lane together. I'm rooting for them, and I would hope that they would have the same respect back to me. So I personally didn't find it a difficult decision, and I was very open with the two other girls that I bowl singles with. So yeah, that was kind of my reasoning. And if it made everybody's life a little bit easier, hey, why not? We're all there together and competing. So I wish everybody the best experience that they have. There's going to be some newbies out there who have no idea what the hell they're doing. And yeah, so that I agree with Michelle. The random pick and mix us all up. I'm fine with bowling with the guys too. It's not a big deal with me. I don't care to be kept with just women on one side and men on the other. I'm fine with mixing and matching us all up.
Biggest, excuse me, the biggest complaint you would get, not necessarily from the bowlers, because I'm sure I've heard from not only but you, from everybody and all of them, is it's a singles event. It's not a team event. It's a singles, so you're bowling on your own. But I'm guessing now the people who would be, I guess, be complaining the most would be the coaches. So I've got a bowler on lane 1, a bowler on lane 8, and a bowler on lane 12. So
yeah, my coach flat out told me he wanted us to stay together, and I looked him in the eye and said, "That's not your decision."
No, but I'm saying that's that's part of the discussion. with
And
regard-
and I know that some of the topics have come up around me about, okay, that's great, mom. You know, specifically, obviously, my own boys. Congratulations, you want to be mixed and matched. You want to make everybody's life a little bit easier, and we could knock about 2 hours off of our singles bowling by doing what we did. And they said, but mom, not everybody bowls like everybody else. There's some people bowling singles that may not have like tournament bowler caliber, like when we go to see all of the other tournaments that people are the 250 plus averages and stuff. And I get that, but we're all singles. We should all be respecting each other and just doing our thing. And I totally agree, Mike. My coach is probably not going to be very happy when he finds out, because I was under no obligation to also share that information with him. This was a survey to me, not to him. So I can definitely guarantee you that he's probably going to have his knickers in a knot. I guess he'll have to work those knickers out, because my family's going to be standing behind me. So stand in line, bub. Like,
I think he's got his hand up, so.
yeah, right.
I just want to put an input on like the mixing and matching. I kind of wish that I qualified this year, but I didn't for the singles. But like in last year as a singles rep, the coach I didn't really have a need for in that singles area. Some do, some don't. So I totally wish that this format kind of was probably inputted last year, because at the end of the day, you're there to, yes, bowl as a team, but again, not everyone makes the single step ladder. So technically you're going against them. So to me, it wouldn't really matter if I'm with my teammates or without my teammates, because technically I'm going against them. So that was my input on that.
I just want to mention a couple of things with, I guess, whether it would be an argument from the singles competitors or whether just to make a couple of points. As you know, the singles as a team, they get to go on the triples the triples event. If they're not bowling together, then their scores can't be used as record scores. So I think that again was one of the other reasoning, so to speak, for wanting to stay together. So, okay, and actually, Michelle, I'm going to put you on the spot, because I mean, you're the Michelle Swan here. You say you're now reverting backwards instead of going forwards in age. On your form, it said for the finals, and you wanted to return to the old round robin.
Yes.
John looked back over 20 years ago, or 20 plus years, and I don't ever recall the singles.
Not single teams.
Not singles, teams.
In Ontario?
Teams in Ontario. When I won in 90 and when I won in 97, they were both round robins.
I remember those too.
I love those.
You would bowl, I think.
Every team twice. So we had 4 groups. It was when we had 24 zones.
Yeah.
We had 4 groups of 6, with the top team out of each group making it into the finals, and then you'd bowl every one of those teams twice on Saturday morning. No, 3 on Friday night and 3 on Saturday morning. Sorry.
I do recall us bowling this stuff, some of the playoffs on a Friday. I'll go back and look at the books again, but I don't. And hey, Dave,
you have to go back more than 20 years, John.
Yeah,
Dave. Yeah, Dave.
I'm aging myself too, Michelle. Don't worry.
Dave, are you there at all? Or you just with Barb? That's okay. Michelle, you think it was back about what, 23 years ago, 24 years ago, somewhere in there?
No, it's longer than that, John.
90s,
It's when I was
80s?
back in the 90s.
Early 90s.
I'm here, John.
When did you start working with in the Masters?
Start working in the like as an employee?
Yeah.
Around 2008, I think.
Okay, so you don't go back far enough. Okay.
For what? I go back a long way as a bowler.
Yeah,
Round robin.
do you remember round
We
robin
used
in
to
the
do the round
teams?
robin.
I do, and
Yes.
Brenda Hamilton will remember this too,
Yeah.
because we were on a team one year where we never lost a game in our round robin, but we didn't win our group.
Yeah.
Because we were winning with 5 points and 4 points. There ended up being another team that were winning in 7 and 8, even though they lost some. So I competed in the round robin.
And what year would that have been approximately, just so I can go back and look at the books?
How old are you, Brenda? No, never mind. It would
Well,
have,
Michelle told you 93 and 97.
It was
Yeah.
Michelle's already told you.
Mid-90s, okay.
1990 was one of them. Actually, it may have even been early 2000s, because I think in 2002 when we won, no, 2002 also. So I think you have to go back.
Okay, all the open
20.
books are I've got all the open books in our warehouse, so I'll go look through them again.
that was
And I
back.
see somebody said it only makes sense when you're bowling groups, and I agree. But if we went down to 12 zones, we could have 2 groups of 6.
Yeah, because I think, Michelle, that was back when we had something like 24 zones or something.
We did.
Yeah.
We had 24 zones.
Yeah.
We had 6 groups of 4.
So that'll give you an idea, John, of the timing. When did
Okay.
we have 24 zones? But it
That was way
more-
back.
It was, and they were seeded based on their previous year's finish, so that the groupings were always different every year based on
Yeah.
the previous
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go back and look more. Okay, thanks.
Diane, you're dating me when you say your parents were playing that format. Come on.
Okay, that leaves me down to one discussion topic, and whether we need to discuss it more or not. Brenda Panka, if you put down motions and recommendations from the AGM, have we covered what you're thinking about, or is there something else that you wanted to discuss?
No, I think we've gotten some feedback from it, but I'm not sure if we're necessarily any clearer, but because the topics that we've asked about is having it separate. We talked about decreasing the zones, going to 5-player teams. So I think we've covered it all. And as one of those delegates to the AGM, I wanted to make sure that I have the feedback from bowlers, but it's definitely a little bit split still. And I think it's sad that there's only 20 people on the call or so, because we're only getting a little bit of feedback. So
I agree
so
with
I
you,
think we
Brenda. I
have
was
that,
shocked.
to answer the questions. I think we have covered it. So
Yeah. And well, I won't comment on my thoughts with regards to the number of people on the call, but yeah, I agree with you, Brenda. I thought for sure we would get more. So whether the people that aren't on the call that bowl in the open are quite happy with the way things are and they don't want it changed. So that's it. Okay, Michelle?
Yeah, I wanted to say I was disappointed with the number, and I'll come right out and say it, because people always have something to say, but they won't come in and say it when it really matters. But that's not what I wanted to say here. And I probably missed my chance when we were speaking earlier, but I just wanted to ask too, like, I mean, there's quite a cost to having a meal at the banquet, and I might not be popular when I say this either. And I love the banquets. Don't get me wrong. I want a banquet. I want a ceremony to reward the winners kind of, and I want a get together, but one of the biggest expenses for the bowlers right now is that banquet at $70. Is there an opportunity maybe to cut out the meal, do some kind of ceremony or derbies, whatever, and have the dance, but maybe just have the dinner for the winners?
That discussion, again, was brought up last year at the AGM to, well, it was twofold. One of them was to have a 2-ticket purchase kind of thing. One was for the whole AGM, the whole banquet, including dinners. Another one was for the presentation, ceremony, and dance only. And we were informed that it was at the discretion of the banquet facility. And when we had it last year, they told us that there's only going to be one, and there's not going to be two. So I don't know.
Michelle's comment though now I think is saying it was more as to do a when they have the winners reception, that they would have a food of some sort with it, and then we would just have a dance and award ceremony afterwards. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes.
As opposed to a formal dinner. So everybody could
Yes.
go do whatever they want for dinner somewhere, and then we would show up, everybody would show up for 9 o'clock or whatever it is for an award ceremony and dance afterwards. Is that what your thought is?
Yeah, basically, because I think now even after we're done bowling on the Saturday, well, whoever's bowling on the Saturday, I mean, for everybody, if you've come out to watch, it's a rush to get to the dinner anyways. So this would allow people to sort of do what they want, celebrate. The winners can congregate and go for dinner, have a dinner, whatever's being served, and then everybody else joins back with the ceremony and the dance.
Okay.
I agree we have to have something. A couple years ago when we had nothing, it was awful.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anyway, just my 2 cents.
The next one I had in that I saw pop up with Michelle Murray.
Yeah, just one quick thing as far as participation from tonight. I'm not sure how. I just think maybe it's people not reading properly, Mike. When I mentioned it to my team, someone thought that this was pertaining to the coaches meeting prior to the open. Like I don't know if there's maybe there was a different way to communicate it to the coaches to let them know that, like, I don't know. I mean, I certainly was able to register and knew that this was for me to participate in, no problem. I just wonder if there's more hand holding needed in that situation. I don't know, but it seemed to be among my group of people that I talked to, there were a lot of people that did not know that this was open to them for whatever reason. I don't know. And the other, just one quick note, just from a catering and events perspective, with having like a winner's dinner, I don't disagree with it. The only thing you have to consider as far as like venue or what have you is if you have dietary restrictions or anything like that, because the menus are obviously pre-planned in advance. So you'd have to consider that as far as if you were going to have like a winners, because you wouldn't know until that day. So it would just be something, it wouldn't necessarily be as easy as doing that in a banquet hall or with whomever is hosting it. So just something to consider. Not impossible, just, yeah.
Just so I'm going to address and answer your questions with regards to this meeting. It was suggested at last year's AGM that we run a separate meeting for open bowlers discussion forum for anybody that was a member. And so we did, when we did do that, we put that date on the calendar of events. And everybody who has coached the Open in the past knows that we usually have a coaches meeting for the Open and Senior Open the week before the event. So this meeting tonight was for to give, I guess, the delegates or whatnot, or to pass your comments on to the delegates with regards to any suggested recommendations or changes. In January, Brenda put the notice in the newsletter. And again, in February, she put the notice in the newsletter. And also it was, now I'm not a Facebook person, but I'm under the impression that it was also put out on Facebook about this meeting. So that's the public, how this meeting was publicized. So, and again, as to why there was only 21 people, I don't know. So next I have on my screen is Vicky.
So I told my ladies team, just in regards to this meeting tonight, that I had signed up to sit in on the meeting. I know some of the girls on my team work nights, so from our perspective, I said I would sit in and then report back to the girls team in regards to anything that we may have spoken about, and it's recorded as well. So, I mean, it's there for us to access. I know that last year when the banquet price came up, everybody had a shit fit. It was $70. Everybody's losing their mind. I don't know about anybody else. And I was sitting in the winner's circle at, gold. I had so much food available to me, and you guys have known my dietary restrictions. So Michelle, I'm not sure which Michelle asked about this, but I know that when a banquet is organized by our committee, at least from my point and my son's point, our dietary restrictions have always been addressed like 100% of the time. If there's a confusion, if there's anything like that, these guys went to bat for us. I've never had such a good meal in the past few years as I've had. So kudos to you guys. You guys do what we need you to do. I can almost tell you that if a dinner is not organized, you're going to see contingencies just go off on their own. As in, the winner's circle is not even celebrating together. They're all making their own plans with their own friends and celebrating dinners. I like the banquet because it brings us all together. I understand the price cost. I get that. And it can be hard to budget for, but it is one of the highlights of the Open, all of us being there together, and the awards, the dinner, we sit down together and we celebrate together. So that's just my own personal opinion. I advocate for that hugely. I grew up with it through YBC, and I like to see it in the Open. So my preference would be that it stayed the same. Do I like the cost? No, but I had a huge amount of food last year, and I think it was well received.
Thanks, Vicky. Just so everybody's aware, if anybody has dietary concerns or conditions that they need to do, please be sure that you put them on your forms this year again. Even though we may have had it from last year, we want to make sure we can only go with what we get in each year, because someone's dietary concerns, and I know Vicky's changes a little bit as she goes through her.
I like food,
life, so.
John. I eat now.
I know. Yeah, but your
I will
dietary
resend
concerns on
it.
it.
Yeah, that's
please
my
make sure
fault. I
Rhonda
didn't do
has the
that.
most current one. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Lori.
Similar to the meeting notice, one thing so it was on Facebook, and I knew it was being scheduled, but the letter itself and the announcement itself didn't include the date. So I know a lot of people disregarded it because it didn't have the date in that notice. Because I know even in my work, people are a one-stop shop. So if the information isn't where they're looking at that moment, they're not going to look any further. And when we talked about it on Monday night, I asked, I had the whole men's team sitting beside me, and I turned to them and said, "Are you guys, any of you, going to the meeting on Wednesday?" And they're all like, "What meeting?" And I'm like, 3 of you are on our board, so why aren't you going? Like, you know this. And they're like, "Oh, well, we forgot to register." So and then they suggested, with it, the hours being shorter, like this year the schedule is different, like we have evening time in that. Maybe we could have had an hour meeting at like 6:30 one night and just had an hour session where people, and we could write up some of these motions and get them to vote. And I know it's long days, I get it, but that was just something that was said from that meeting when all those guys didn't sign up for this. And thank you for letting me sign up late, because my life's been crazy the last little bit, so thank you.
Okay, Laurie, to address your situation, yes. When I drafted up the letter, the original letter, and sent it out, and it got proofed, it was missed that I had failed to put the I believe the date and the time, or I had the date. I had something, but I didn't have the time. But then, and then I don't know. I think it was maybe Bob that sent it into the office. So literally within that same night, I redrafted a second notice and I put the date and the time, and Rhonda sent it out again almost the very next day. I guess maybe, and the reason that I didn't put it on, it was originally the fact that, and I guess maybe it's just me, the bowling calendar. I guess everybody doesn't obviously get the bowling calendar. It's on the bowling calendar. It's been on the bowling calendar since the beginning of the year, September. So, and I guess maybe my thought was that people get the bowling calendar and they see it. So, but anyway, it was, yes, the original one was sent out without that information on, but the very next day, a version 2 went out with the exact date and time for the meeting. So,
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, in Mike's defense, even though he wrote the letter originally, it was proofread by myself and at least 2 other board members. All of us missed it. And so it's it was just one of those, oh, we know the date is, we know when it is. For me personally, I know I've got the calendar of events glued, downloaded to my computer or on my device and my computer. So I've got it everywhere all the time. But you know, that was one of the questions that was raised back at the Open last year in the survey, and the majority, almost, I think it was not, I wouldn't say unanimous, but it was a high majority of people wanted to have have this meeting. So it's hopefully we'll figure out, we'll look at how we marketed it or presented it this year and make sure we find other ways of doing it again next year. So.
Yeah, but thank you for doing the meeting and thank you for everybody that did attend.
And
Because being at the AGM, it is great to hear the different voices, to know so that we can represent all the bowlers properly.
And no disrespect
efficiently.
to doing it at the Open, but we did do a seminar, or not a seminar, we did an event at one of the Opens the one year. And the majority of people, the biggest important thing, and no disrespect to anybody when I say this, but the most important thing to do was to get out of the meeting so they can go back to the room and get a drink.
Yep.
So
That's what I said. I got it.
Well, it's a little trickier to do at that time. It is. But we will be doing a survey again this year. So if anybody has any questions that they think they would like to have on the survey, feel free to send them my way, because I'm working on that as well as many other things for the Open right now. Getting that together so it's available to get feedback from people again. I've heard some things here tonight that I'm going to be looking at the idea of adding in there again as well.
Do you put the QCR code on the back of the banquet tickets
Yeah, that's
when
a
you
neat
print
idea.
them? Because then people will have that piece of paper when they're not necessarily bowling, so they might actually log in and respond it because they all have their paper over the weekend. Just a
Interesting.
thought.
Yeah, I don't think the tickets have gone to print yet, but I don't have the URL ready to go yet. So you're making me do some work really quick. So I'll
Well,
check.
you can
I like
create,
the idea. It's a great idea.
yeah, create an empty URL. You can do all the questions later.
Yeah,
Create
yeah.
QCR, get it off
Get
to
it
print,
somebody
and
set.
then edit it.
Yeah, good idea. I'm just reading a couple of comments that are in here. Okay, Michelle. Murray.
With regards to access to a survey, maybe it might be worth it even just to have, like, I don't know if you already do this because I haven't been there in quite a few years. Do you post like a QR code for people?
Yeah, that's what Lori was just mentioning, is about
Okay.
Lori informed me that QR codes are really easy to do, and she helped me create
Yes.
them a couple of years ago, and I've
Okay.
been playing with them since. And yes, we will be a QR code makes life a lot simpler, because they're for those who are up to, on technology and use their phone and can actually scan something with their phone. I'm not picking on Mike Kite when I say this, but Mike still has a flip phone that doesn't have camera on it, if he even has that. But you know, most people have. At one time, Lori, a couple of years ago, Lori and Winnie went around with iPads asking for people to fill out the survey, and it was quite interesting. Some of the feedback we got back, the 2 ladies got when they were going around. You know, I'm not picking on anybody when I say this, but they weren't always interested in filling out a survey at the moment when the iPad was presented to them as an idea. The QR codes were posted on the walls for people to scan here and there. But I think the idea of I'll definitely get the QR code so I can get it on the ticket. But I'm not sure how much extra that's going to add to our cost of printing the ticket, but it can't be that much to print them on the backside. So.
The only drawback I'm thinking of that, John, is the fact that if the QR code is on the back of the tickets are handed in when they come to the banquet.
Yeah, but it'll be elsewhere. It's just another spot that'll be in there presented to them. Yeah. I'll follow up with Ron in the morning.
Okay.
Post in the men's bathroom, John. I'm sure you'll get lots of response.
We did that, but I'm sure hope that guys aren't taking phones into the washroom with them and scanning QR codes. Well, maybe they are. But we will definitely have QR codes posted in and around all 3 centers this year.
I don't see any more hands, so unless anybody else has,
Oh, you got Michelle again.
No, I typed in a question there, and John, you probably know where this question's coming from, but and a bowler from our zone actually is asking about this year's banquet, and if people don't want to come for the full thing, like the dinner and everything, is there an option to pay a price just to come to the ceremony and dance?
Is that from Lori? Because I've already responded to her.
She's the one that just texted me and asked if we were still on and if I could ask it.
Not me, Lori,
No.
because I asked it last year. That's why I was like, I asked the same question last year, and Algonquin College said no.
Yeah, the facility will not allow us to have a 2-tier ticket. But
Okay.
if a couple of people show up later on, what are we gonna do?
Okay. Gotcha. I'll pass that along.
I gave her that answer before she went on vacation.
I don't know. Maybe she didn't get it. I don't know. She's the one that just typed me and asked me.
She replied, "Okay, John, thank you."
I'm gonna tell her that then. I think she's losing it.
Oh, we're all losing it. We're all getting older.
She's still a baby though.
Okay.
I mean,
well,
a baby in age,
Yeah,
not.
I got
You know
you.
what I mean?
anyway, that's pretty well all that I have, unless anybody else has anything else that they want to mention.
Do we have a schedule out yet?
Schedule's posted.
Really?
Lane draw's not done, but schedule's posted.
They're talking
Schedule's
lane
posted.
draw.
No, I mean lane draw.
Everybody
Okay.
wants lane draw.
Yeah, the lane draw is in final stages. It's there are a few technical issues we've got due to numerous situations, but that's being finalized. The tournament committee has been working hard on it. I've put about 15 hours into it personally.
Excellent.
The lane draw this year is being there's a
Well,
select-
because I know you have 3 houses that you have
Yeah.
to now micromanage, and I get that.
yeah,
I
well, two of
happen
the
to just
two of the
say to
houses
my
are only 12 lane
non-coach-
centers, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I just happened to say to not my coach, but still my coach husband. I noticed that Northern Ontario had posted their lane draw schedule today. And he's like, wait, are you on that meeting tonight? Ask John and Mike if there's a schedule.
Yeah, and
I'm like,
the
okay,
Northern
I'll
Ontario
do that for you, babe.
and the Northern Ontario event, I think, starts this weekend, does it not?
Yeah,
They're a lot earlier than us.
yeah, they are.
Mr. Bester.
I just want to go back to the point about declining participation. And I think part of the reason participation's declined is like I've noticed a bit of more of a gap between like the higher average bowlers and I don't want to say lower average bowlers, but there's a lot less bowlers between 200 and 220 average participating. And I understand there's a long-term athlete development group. I'm just wondering if there's anything like anything that they're working on to try to give those bowlers more opportunity to get better and raise their average as opposed to like the current pins over average tournaments. So I think part of the reason why more of those bowlers don't bowl is because there's no scratch tournaments for them. Like back when I first started bowling the Open, there was the National Classified still existed, so it was a scratch tournament. You just competed within your average class. And there's also the CBC and TSN where you qualified out of your house. So like the lower 200 average bowler still had a chance to qualify for something. It wasn't like the Open where they had to average 250.
Yeah, no, good point. We'll definitely pass along the thoughts to the LTAD committee to look into more for sure.
Okay, I have a couple suggestions as well. If you want to point me in the right direction, I can send them a message as well.
Yep, you can send it to Megan Blewett. Do you have her email?
I'm sure it's somewhere. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, okay, yeah. She's the LTAD chair. Oh, sorry. Combination of, let me confirm that and I'll get back to you on that. I apologize. I may have misspoke on that. Sue, are you LTAD or is Megan?
Megan.
Okay, so I got it right. Okay, good. Okay, everybody. With that, we will thank you all for your participation. The recording will be available. I have to let it do its processing and do the recording. If there's anybody that wants the recording, send me an email to the O5PBA president@gmail.com. I will send you a link to where the recording is. So, thank you, everybody. Gary, Sue, and I need to join another Zoom meeting right after we disconnect from this one. So we'll see the three of you later. Everybody else, enjoy the rest of your day, evening, whatever you're doing. And thank you very much for your time.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everyone.
Thanks, guys. Good
Everybody.
night.
Good night.
You want me to leave too?
We're all leaving.